Hello everyone, welcome to Midweek Gaming. I'm Nick on the comms, of course, Justin providing audio, gameplay, and of course his own brand of commentary where necessary. I had one topic lined up for this week, but then I attended TennoCon, and that topic got put on the back burner. That'll be next week or something else. Because, yeah, I attended TennoCon this weekend, and all in all, great show, great performance. I had an absolute wonderful time. Thank you to DE and all its staff and people I've met and all that nonsense. But onto the show proper, it's interesting because let me just say that there's a mixed reception, you could say, coming out of TennoCon. On one hand, the Warframe stuff was absolutely great. I genuinely didn't think anyone had on their buzz card that we'd be getting romanceable options for the next Syndicate that'll be coming in 1999, and also that our new Lich system that is based for the Infested will be sourced from, of all things, a 1990s boy band. Yeah, I don't think anyone had that on their bingo cards, but here we are. DE proving once again that they know how to make us all collectively go, eh? But, okay, that's fine. What everyone is kind of concerned with, at least, when it comes to the show and proper, is the whole business around Soulframe. I attended this panel. It was actually the first one in the morning, and it was actually Soulframe's first ever dev stream, where they showed off more gameplay and stuff like that. Now, full disclosure, it is still in its alpha stages, and that's not me going to defend it. For those who know where I'm going, it's not me defending it, but just me having some setting some ground here. And I will say at the time I did enjoy it, but again, I was more enjoying it for the sound and story. I then went home, reviewed the stream about a dozen or so times, and then got my own opinions, looked in the internet, and got a dozen other opinions from a dozen different sources, from the Gamescom trailer to, I think, their Soulframe's own trailers and a bunch of other trailers from different sources, and yeah, everyone's pretty consistent on one thing. The game, speaking in terms of combat, looks bad. Like, there are some people saying it is god-awful. And let me explain why. Now, all in all, I will say that the story, the tone, everything else, extremely good. Some people say the graphics aren't all there. I say that's up to interpretation, but I can certainly see that point. But when it comes to graphics, or not graphics, when it comes to combat, however, I can certainly see upon later review why everyone is saying what they're saying in terms of combat. For those who don't know, the gameplay actually takes us over what is effectively the intro quest that they're making early on in the game, the sneak peek of that. And that will have us seeing what the intro quest is. And then we cut to later on in the game, and we actually kind of meet one of the new ancestors, which is the NPCs that we'll be interacting with for customization, yada yada yada. If you've played an MMO, you kind of know where I'm going here. Or just any game with NPC vendors. You know what I'm talking about. Then we actually kind of have to deal with a mini-boss, so to speak, throughout the thing that kind of dogs us, called Nimrod. This guy shoots electricity-lightning at us, which is interesting. I only bring that up because another complaint that some people have is the fact that the attacks are so bright that it's borderline impossible to see what's going on, and again, I can kind of see that one. But let's focus on the combat first. Which brings us to the actual issue here. During these back-and-forth fights with this character, you can see that the actual attacks themselves are extremely clunky. The hits have absolutely no impact to them. It looks like the guy's shrugging off the blows. Some people say that there's absolutely no telegraphed attacks as well, which, in a game that, for those who don't know, Soulframe is not, despite the name, going to be very much like Warframe in terms of how it plays. It'll be more akin to a Souls-ish type of game, which will be interesting to see. So that'll be interesting to see. The only problem is, in a Souls-like game, it is a much slower pace than something like Warframe, which is very back and forth, and, you know, you can swing your sword and half the arena dies, and you're moving at the speed of sound. The problem, however, lies in the gameplay for Soulframe is that it's a much slower style of game, which kind of shows where DE's kind of weaknesses are when it comes to kind of back-and-forth slower combat that we saw back in Deviri. Again, the same kind of slow, clunky-ish movement where the attacks don't have weight. And in a game that is very much based on this kind of combat, that's going to be a problem, because again, the reason Warframe and Destiny and all the big games are successful is because regardless of the story, of the sound, of all that, their gameplay is solid. So everyone is concerned that Soulframe is going to be DOA if the very gameplay itself looks this bad to play. Now, I have been hearing some, in full disclosure, individuals who've been from the Preludes, which is again their version for Alpha, that it feels much better to play than it looks. I have not been in Preludes yet. I've signed up. I haven't gotten anything. I attended the event, and they said that there's going to be everyone from the event invited into Preludes who have already or are going to sign up, so that'll be when I actually give my final say on how it looks. But for the current moment, like I said, I've not seen too many people say that, though. A lot of people saying also in Preludes that it might not be, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, again, for a game that's kind of going in the Souls-like genre, again, telegraphed attacks are going to be better because you're going to have to be dealing with bosses that, again, if you played Souls-likes, any enemy, if you're not careful, can put you down. So you're going to want to need to know how to block, how to dodge, and all that.
Please accept this gift.
And again, you want to hit an enemy, talking in terms of impact, when you hit an enemy with a mace, it should feel like they got hit by a giant freaking mace, not like they just got hit by like a feather or something. Which is also one of the big of the gameplay. As a result, people are saying that this game should be spending way more time to cook, and that, you know, in fall we're going to be getting the open prelude, so anyone who just signs up will be getting in. You don't have to wait for an invitation, I'm assuming, anymore. However, again, this is alpha, but people are already worried because, like I said, this is going to be a core feature of the game, and the one reason why everyone is still concerned is that it wouldn't be so big if this was the first time we were seeing gameplay for this, but it really actually isn't. We've seen gameplay at last year's TennoCon as well, and also Steve himself, who is the creative director, he himself has been showing a bit on the side as well with his own kind of personal streams. And so far, nothing in the combat has really improved. And yeah, that sparked a lot of alarms for people. Granted, DE themselves does tend to take feedback quite a bit, and it's borderline impossible, I think, for them to hear about all this because, like I said, this commentary has blown up across everywhere, and it's rare to get the internet to agree on anything. From their own coverage of the event on their YouTube channel to, like I said, to gaming media YouTube channels. I don't know why my brain struggled to say that have put it up there, to personal reviews of the thing, to, like I said, some of the big streamers saying it. I've heard Asmongold has had some scathing reviews for it. That's gained traction. I even looked at that one particularly. I wanted to, but I opted not to. I don't think at this point, reason is because I don't think it's going to say anything I probably haven't heard at this point, but yeah, so it's kind of going to be borderline impossible for them not to have heard about this. Now, they have pretty much made it clear that they want the development of this to be out in the open. And, well, this shows you where, because we're getting quality feedback and it's not good. Again, I've heard comments that are more nice, you could say, where it's like, this definitely needs to get worked on, stuff like that. And I've also heard more blunt and rather jaded commentary of the person who's in charge of the game design should be canned for this. There's people who are literally saying, how does this even worth showing? All that
to assist, Captain.
Aside, I can, however, agree with the overall opinion that it definitely needs to get the work done. But we will see. So, is outside.
I like to see you
Like I said, the music was definitely there. I definitely looking at it, barring the gap. Sounds definitely there, and again,
detected. And the backs are jamming my transmat lock.
Who's Warframe team. And I will end off by saying this. It's an interesting point that, unlike in Warframe, or unlike in most studios, right? where the team that basically moves on from one project and moves on to another is kind of no longer associated with it, right? Most of the times in the game industry, when you hear X person has moved on, even if they're still at the studio, you just assume they're not touching anything related to the project ever again. And in most cases, that is true. But in the case of DE, they're different to that regard. Hell, Steve and George and all the guys who worked on Warframe previously still appeared on the big TennoLive reveal at the end of the convention because they themselves will admit that while they themselves don't work on Warframe anymore, excuse me, you'll hear my clock dinging in the background. Every bloody time is on the wrong time. But nonetheless, even if they aren't working specifically on Warframe anymore, they're still exchanging notes. So the benefit of one does benefit the other. The whole reason I bring this up is because, again, these are the kind of same issues that we saw with Deviri when that came out, which had a very similar combat style to what you see in Soulframe. So people are concerned that not so great combat, since it's the transition and core piece in Soulframe, is going to be absolutely horrible. Again, it's not so much a problem when it's only 1% of the game and you can shrug that off. That's the one reason why everyone kind of forgives the whole Deviri experience, because it's the 1% of a one mode and you can shrug that off. 99% of the game is good, so who cares if the 1% is not so great. But in the case of Soulframe, that's the whole game. So, again, we come back to that comment of people are saying this might be DOA if this does not get fixed now. Again, I agree, it definitely needs to get looked into. But we'll see where it goes. Other than that, though, TennoCon was pretty good. Like I said, interesting reveals, which, like I said, is where the duality of the whole con comes in. You have Soulframe being the in the morning, and then in the end, everyone is just freaking out over everything. Like I said, I didn't expect a romanceable 1999 syndicate, but again, here we are. What are you going to do? What do you think, Justin? Any opinions? I know you don't play either of these games, but...
I don't know. It's interesting because, like, having like the whole romanceable like character part of it is very weird because it's completely different than what's normally set in the game. Like that kind of thing's not normally in the game at all. Like there's nothing remotely anywhere near that kind of thing. So it's like, this is a very weird thing going on.
I told everyone at the convention, it almost explaining Warframe to people is impossible because it's one of those things where you can't fit it nicely into any genre because it just kind of does everything, and everyone's just kind of like, yeah, that's how this works.
Guardian secured.
Which, the way they're doing it is also extremely weird. They're basically saying, okay, so we're 1999, right? Okay, so here's the idea. Through what is effectively instant messaging, which makes me remind you of the Persona system, if you know that system. You can build up on any of the characters, have a freaking New Year's kiss with them, which is absolutely fucking hilarious. I don't know. $20 says this was Rebecca's idea. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
It's gonna be fun. How'd you enjoy your romance?
I guess, and again, we have the other part where it's like, so we're getting a new lick system. Okay, it's gonna be okay. The base 1999. Okay. That is sourced from a 1999 boy band. What? They literally have the entire like boss arena set up to have like a concert stage and everything. And fun fact, apparently the song is already on YouTube to be heard in full, which that's a thing. Yeah, this is why Warframe just continues to make everyone collectively scratch their head in a good way, because nobody knows what's gonna come next. Anyways, I gotta cut you off, I think.
Nothing makes sense. Everything is war, but there is also love and war.
There is love and war. Yeah, we're approaching Warhammer levels of absurdity. It is real, but it's not real. But it isn't real, but it is still real. Make sense? No?
Don't
Good.
worry about it. No
Don't worry
question.
about it. Don't question it. Just consume. Do not
Consume
question.
product. Enjoy.
Consume product. Enjoy product. Oh my goodness. So that'll be interesting. I will say though, on a side note, since we have a little time, I don't think. What time are we at for the video, Justin?
15.
What time are we at? 15. Okay, I have a bit of time to explain this. I was hoping to have some time for it. What's interesting is that in the 1999 stuff we've seen so far, we're going to be dealing with a very what looks to be proto version of the infestation, the kind of current, basically disease slash flood slash SIVA virus we have. And I say slash both those things, despite if you play Destiny, you know those are two very different things. Simply due to the fact that here's the funny thing, right? SIVA, or not SIVA, TechnoCite, as it's called, or the technovirus as it seems to be referred to in 1999, is named due to the fact that it is a technological-based virus akin to Destiny's SIVA. It is made of nanites that corrupt and consume and replicate based on that kind of concept, right? Right. The weird part is, when you look at how Warframe portrays the TechnoCite, it looks much closer to the Flood in terms of appearance. It is very flesh-like. You just have growths and sacs and spores and all that stuff. And again, it behaves very similarly to the Flood, despite being constricturally based on the concept similar to SIVA. And that has always been weird, because like I said, despite being told it's based in nanites, we don't actually get the feeling that it's very techno-based. And this, weirdly enough, can be explained away, you could almost say, in Warframe's interesting story, due to the fact that how the TechnoCite was created was via the Orokin, as far as we know. And the Orokin, at the very least, had an interesting knack for being experts at manipulation of pretty much everything on a genetic level or atomic level. Simply put, they have the ability to make non-organic things act in organic ways. So, you ever heard the old expression, taking blood from stone? Yeah, that was probably how they worked with stone. They just made it bleed. And there's a whole stuff revolving around that concept. So you could arguably say the reason the TechnoCite, despite being a techno-virus, behaves very akin to and looks very akin to a natural or more organic, at least, looking virus like, again, the Flood, is because of that aspect of it. But in 1999, we actually get to see what looks to be a very much more techno version of the TechnoCite, and it feels much more akin to what it is. Because when in 1999, there's actually a bit you can actually go to in-game right now where you see like a mall area, which is kind of a hub area, it looks like, where you can actually see the TechnoCite growths and everything. And they look much more mechanical, like instead of growths of like veins, you almost see like wires coming out of everything, much more akin to what you see in Destiny's SIVA. And it's this weird mishmash amalgam of, you know, flesh-like growths mixed with metallic wires weaving together, and has this really surreal look to it in a weird sense. But it much more akin feels to what it is described as, and that is a technological virus. Hell, even the enemies in 1999, or at least one of the types that we know of at least, that are pure and infested by the looks of it, are basically just TV sets and stuff like that, metallic parts woven together with this metal pseudo-flesh and turned into effectively, what's the closest amalgam I can think of here? What's the close flood amalgam I can think of here? Infected forms? Yeah, let's just call them infection forms. Just giant infection forms that may or may not have guns. Now that's a terrifying thought.
I think you're referring to combat forms.
You'd think you would. Well, combat forms would be closer. Yeah, that works better.
Yeah.
Combat forms. Yeah, we'll call them combat
If
forms.
you want, you could consider it the brute combat forms, because they're a lot more like weird, mushy ball type thing.
Yeah. And as usual, as in 1999, Albert Entrati is somewhere in all of this. Plus, apparently, we possibly appear after getting regurgitated by a giant infested thing, which again, I go back to the earlier point. DE knows how to make us all collectively scratch our heads. Which, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that solves the question of how we get to 1994. Apparently, we get brought on the back of infested worm monster? I don't know. Well, no, we get brought inside the gullet of one, I guess. I don't know. Anyways,
Yes.
that's the Warframe reveal. Does it make sense? Probably not. Anyways, what do you think, Justin? What's your final thought on that whole bit?
Enjoy the flood. Warframe
enjoys
the flood. Enjoy.
Honest, again, that's the weird part, right? Like I said, they're conceptually more closer to Siva, yet they behave and look closer to Flood.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
only in 1999
like a
we finally
robotic
seen
version of the flood almost.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, have you seen any of the infested stuff from Warframe just casually while trolling the internet?
I've seen a few of the images and stuff.
It looks like closer to Flood, doesn't it?
It does resemble the flood in many ways. It just looks like it's a robotic-sized version of it.
Yeah, conceptually it looks more conceptually it's more robotic, yet portrays itself closer to organic, which, again, my guess is that's just explained away by the Orkans tomfuckery, because, like I said, they can make rocks bleed, so why not? So yeah, that's everything that I can pretty much think of in terms of TennoCon, at least when it comes to the big reveals. They're apparently going to be at the Tokyo Game Show as well as Gamescom in Germany and obviously Tokyo respectively. So that'll be interesting. Apparently they're saving the big reveal for the next big update that'll be coming in the game until the Tokyo Game Show, which will be revealing their new frame, which is apparently also one of the proto frames as well. So that'll be interesting. Oh yeah, one final thing I will reveal is that they're having a whole new cosmetic, which I'm not sure how this is a kind of get this right. So we have the proto frames, right? We've got Arthur, we've got Aoi, and they've got like the mag and the Excalibur, look to them because they're basically proto frames, right? And we've got AX52 or whatever he's calling himself, which is another member. I don't know. It'll be one of the new unannounced frames coming with him. So anyways. So in honor of the whole proto frame shtick, DE found another way to monetize the whole thing in the most DE odd way possible. So they're having a new quote-unquote cosmetic where you can basically have the Gemini frame, is what they're calling it. But basically it means that at any point in the game, if you're playing as, I guess, Excalibur or Mag or one of the frames associated with those frames, the proto frames, you can just randomly switch between your actual Warframe and said character. So you can just switch to Arthur if you're playing, Excalibur, and it's fully voiced too, which is kind of interesting. And that's apparently a new cosmetic coming? I don't know. It looks interesting, but again, I just question, what am I looking at? We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I think that's the only last reveal I'll make for the night, because, like I said, the more I talk about Warframe, the more my own brain starts to convulse weirdly with concern. Or at the very least, deeply questions the things I play as a hobby. But nonetheless, that's TennoCon wrapped up. We'll see what next year brings. They already announced the next year, so... But yeah, that's that, I guess. Before we go, one final thing. I didn't know if we'll mention it in the next video, but I might as well say it now. In the next few videos coming out, we'll actually be recording them as of probably around the time you're hearing this one, because... No matter if I mention it, do you?
No, we haven't mentioned it, but basically I'm going to be going away for a period of time, therefore I will be unable to upload nor record videos proper. So
we thought, why don't we just make a few videos and just kind of upload them when we normally would, just on backlog. So you'll forgive us if something big comes out in the next few weeks and we don't cover it, because, The editor's out of the room. But we still have content, like I said, because of our pre-recorded stuff you're going to see over the next 2 weeks. So you'll still get the content, just it'll be a bit more dated, possibly. Near the end, we might talk about more of our own theories. Like I said, there's one particular thing. I want to talk about Destiny, but we'll save it till then. So, that's that. I keep cutting you off here.
No, that's that.
Right then. That's that then, everyone. Have a good week. Have a good one. I'll see you very soon, probably this Wednesday, honestly, if we get everything out right. And then so on. So, yeah. Have a good one, everybody. And of course, just as we end, my fucking clock goes off.